Hi everyone, my name is Mackenzie Darling and I am here with Ashanti Branch. Hello Ashanti, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being part of the World Happiness Fest this week. We're super excited to have you.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. For those of you who don't know Ashanti, you need to. He's the founder and director of the Ever Forward Club. And I think the best way to get to know Ashanti is for him to dive right in and share your background and your story with us, because I think it is absolutely amazing and really inspiring for our viewers to see and to hear.
Yeah, man, that story is really impactful. Like for me, is I was raised by a single mother. We grew up. My father died before I was born. I grew up really poor in Oakland, California, in a very rough community. I had a lot of different rules in my life growing up. My mom's rules of what it means to be a good boy, and then when I went out of my house as a boy, I was supposed to be already a man. And so it was always these two sets of rules that I had to live under of like, be a good boy in the house, be nice, be kind, be caring, be loving, be gentle, here's how you wash and cook, and here's how you help take care of your siblings. Those are all qualities that got me points with my mom. But when you walk out of the house, those qualities aren't respected. They're definitely not expected, and they're always inspected, right? So it's almost like, dude, you're being too nice. Why are you smiling so much? Why are you so happy? Like, what's wrong with you? And the outside of the house, it's always about how much of a man you are. And no matter how old you are, if you're in the male body, you're supposed to be a man. So men don't show feelings. They don't cry. Like, you suck it up. Hey, if you're a toddler, maybe you can cry. But once you get 5 years old, ain't no more crying. And all the rules that pressurize you to try and be who people want you to be. It may not even be who you really want to be, but you know the pressure, and you have a decision to make that either I conform to what they expect of me, or I be myself and maybe get pushed out, and I get pushed out by myself, or me alone, or called names, or all the ways of different communities that shows up. And so I had a lot of battle, and I knew how to change the mask on and off in terms of who I showed up at home as and who I went out to the world as. Fast forward, I go off to college. I want to be rich. I heard that if you study hard, go to college, get a good job, make a lot of money, you can live happily ever after. I'm like, sign me up for that plan. And so I went to college to be an engineer, graduated as a civil engineer, making really good money, like living in a new town. I didn't live in Oakland at that time. I paid off my loans in Oakland, and then I moved to another town. I'm like, I'm out of here. And I wasn't really that happy. I think I was buying happy. Let me tell you what happy started. Happy started at Friday around 5 p.m. And for adults, that's called happy hour, right? And so what happened is I knew all the happy hours in the Bay Area. I knew where the free drinks were, the free food were, the free bands were. We had a spreadsheet of all the happy hours, right? And around Sunday, around 7 p.m., the happiness started fading, right? Because you're like, got to go back to this grind tomorrow. But I knew that the grind Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. was to supply the happiness from Friday to Sunday. And that wasn't enough. And something in me was calling me to go do something different. And I went and became a teacher, taught, and I make it sound easy, right? It wasn't like something said, Ashanti, you should be a teacher. And then I said, okay, let's go teach. No. I'm talking about like a 2-year battle of my soul, because teachers don't get paid like I wanted to get paid. I wanted to be rich. You know what I'm saying? And maybe I didn't want to be rich. I just knew that poor wasn't fun, because most of my life I had been poor, And I'm like, look, if I got a choice in choosing rich or poor, or having money and not having money, I'm choosing money all day long. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I want to take advantage of people with money, but I know what it feels like to not have money, and I know what it's like to have money. And if I was going to be as honest as I could be with you right now, having money feels better. Mm-hmm. But deep down, it wasn't the money. Like, when I really got to the root of it, like, what it would be like to wake up every day and feel fulfilled and feel like I get to give back. And so I became a teacher. The calling of my heart was much stronger than the calling of the money. And I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't experienced it. Like, you couldn't have told me, like, when I was in college being an engineer, that I wanted to be a teacher, because I couldn't hear you. But I'm clearer today than ever before. So I became a teacher, first-year teacher. I'm a bad teacher. Horrible teacher. Like, I'm doing a bad job. And I help some young men. I see them. I see myself in them. They're smart, but they're pretending like they're not smart. I'm like, dude, what's going on with you? Like, luckily a teacher in middle school caught me. So they didn't have a teacher in middle school who caught them and got them on the right track. Because by the time I got to high school, I was on track. These students are already in high school and they're just like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, dude, you're so smart. You're smarter than I am at your age. Like, what are you doing? And realizing that they were hitting those barriers that I used to hit. And that's how Ever Forward Club started. I started this nonprofit, mind you. I didn't think you could get more nonprofit than teaching. But now that I look at it as I'm running a nonprofit, it is possible to get more nonprofit than teaching. But I didn't think it was possible. I would not have chosen that. I was going reverse order of financial progression in my life, like, you know, from engineer, teacher, nonprofit. It just didn't even make sense. But in terms of the happiness scale, in terms of like fulfillment and passion and purpose, I am clear that this is the work I'm supposed to be doing. And so that's the work. And so it's a long journey of all of that, but and I try to concise many, many years of life into that little small piece, but I am clear that I get to do the work today that I was born to do. And I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that you should be doing this work, and all of these young men are so lucky to have you. We're lucky to have you as a society. Would love for you to share the first story about how the Ever Forward Club came to be, and what Ever Forward Club is.
Yeah, so those students who I knew were seeing, I could see they were smart. They were not doing well in my class. They were failing my class. And I'm like, look, you can't fail my class. You got to fail one of the other teachers' class who don't like you, because I love you and I'm only here for you. I ain't here for this check. I'm not here for this. I'm here to help you have a life that you dream of having. Because I know what it feels like to be able to have that life and to find out if that's what you really want. Some people really want it. And so what I knew with the young men, I couldn't do it in a classroom because they were too cool to be friendly with the teacher in the classroom, right? So because smart wasn't cool in my community. Where I was teaching, smart wasn't cool. It wasn't cool for me growing up. And for these young men, I realized that's what they were operating under. Smart's not cool. I want to be cool. Therefore, I can't be acting too smart. And I definitely can't be no friends with the teacher. Like, so I realized that I had to do it outside of class. So we invited them to lunch. I said, look, I'll buy you lunch once a week. In exchange for lunch, you teach me how to be a better teacher. Like, tell me what I'm doing wrong. Because I'm smart. I think I'm smart. I know the math. It wasn't that I didn't know the math. I wasn't able to connect with them in a way that could help them to find their way through all the stuff to do the math. And that's how Ever Forward started. So it was not, like I said, I was not trying to start an organization. I was trying to help some young men pass algebra. Like I couldn't see where it was today. Back then, I was like, I came to this job to be a teacher. I'm doing a bad job. Teaching is not the answer. Like I can teach the math. It's not the answer. There's something else missing. So I started this because I'm like, how do I support this dream that I have to be a good teacher? And so that's how the Ever Forward Club started. And it has grown since then. Those lunchtime circles began to be this brotherhood, this academic family where students recognize that, oh, wait a minute, I can be smart and cool at the same time. Like, you mean that's possible? In a space where you're expected to do your best. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get an A or a B, but you have to give your best. And if you're giving less than your best, then we're going to hold you accountable. We're going to ask you about it. We may even call you into the middle of the circle of everybody and say, why are you not giving your best? Because let's say that you were doing not good in school, but you're giving your best. Then, hey, that's all we can ask for, just to give your best. But if you're not giving your best and you're doing horrible, then there's something wrong in that formula. Like, I mean, imagine a tree. Inside the seed of what's going to grow to be a tree is all it needs to be able to grow to whatever size those type of trees grow to. But what's the difference between tree A and tree B that wibbles up and falls over? Well, it's probably the conditions in which the tree is planted. I mean, I've seen trees grow through cracks in concrete. I've seen trees grow through granite in the Yosemite National Forest. Trees will do what they're supposed to do. And inside of each of us is some seed, some formula that helps us to be our best. And if we're not giving our best, we're not going to grow to be what we could be. So that's what the work was about for those young men, is like, look, I can't define what your best is, but I can tell when you're not trying. I can at least see as an outsider the effort. And so my role with Ever Forward was giving them tools to say, yeah, you may have to ask for help. You may have to stay after school a little bit. You may have to study longer than other people, but it doesn't mean you don't try. So that was the work at Ever Forward. It wasn't, I mean, we've gotten all of our students graduate high school and most of them go off to college, but we weren't inviting them to the club saying, hey, we want to help you get to college, because most of them didn't even want to be in high school. So my role was like creating a space where they can figure out that school can be fun, that there is a benefit in learning. And then from there, they get to grow and find out who they really want to be. What dreams do I have? If no one around you ever dreams, then why would you ever think to dream? Why would you, if no one ever has done anything impactful in the world, in their lives, how would you know that it's possible? You just think it's the people on TV in the little box, right? Oh, only people in that little box get to do amazing things, or only people on my device gets to do amazing things, right? But if you didn't know that it was actually possible for you too, then you may not even go after it. And so our work was like saying, let's first let you dream about what you want, and then let's figure out what are the steps that are going to take you to get there. Because I may not know how to get there, but I'm sure we can figure it out. Right. And so for me, it was like helping young people. I knew how to be an engineer. I wasn't an engineer at the time, but if any young person said, I want to be an engineer, I'm saying, I can help you do that. Right. I wouldn't know how to tell them to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, but I'm sure there's plenty of information. Right. And I think that now that we have access to all these resources, there's no shortage of information in the world. The question is, are we surrounding ourselves with the right people who can help us point us in the direction? Or do we have people who are like covering our eyes and say, no, you don't see that. You know what I'm saying? If that's the kind of people we hang around, then our dreams are going to be clouded and shady and not realized. And that's been our work forever forward.
I think also like so much part of what makes Ever Forward so beautiful is that at the crux of it is vulnerability. And I think that going back to your childhood and growing up, I think, you were the person that had to go through it to then understand exactly what these young men are up against. And so this week, we're really talking about suffering and the cause of suffering. And I think that Ever Forward goes right to that crux of it, where men feel that they aren't able to be vulnerable. Yeah. And through that vulnerability and the sharing circles that you've been able to host, that's when they're able to be seen. And then when they're able to be seen, then they're able to dream. Yeah. And so I would love for you to kind of talk a little bit more about the vulnerability aspect of that. And then also would love to hear you talk a little bit about your Million Masks movement, because that's obviously so much about vulnerability.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when I think about the place of giving young people a space, definitely young men in our work, a space to talk about what they're going through in their life, I am clear that I was creating what I needed in high school and what I needed in middle school. I needed a place that I could talk about the fact that life was not fun. It was not cute. It was not exciting. It was most times feeling very miserable. And to know that if I could talk about it and it didn't feel like I was complaining, it didn't feel like I was like looking for attention. Maybe I was, but in my community, to be a young man looking for attention was not okay. If you were getting attention, you're going to get it because you're fighting, because you're in trouble, because you're like, people were getting attention, but they were getting it in some of the wrong ways. And what we created with Ever Forward was a space where however you are feeling is welcome. So I was in a village in Mexico called Teotitlán de Valle, and on a door, it said, one of the little English schools there, it was like, this is a learning zone. It said, mistakes are expected, respected, inspected, and corrected.
Yes, I love that.
What if you had a place to go that like making mistakes was actually a part of the experience?
Yeah.
And it wasn't wrong. It wasn't burdensome. It was like, man, I just messed up this thing. Oh man, what did you learn from it?
Yeah.
What would you do differently? How would you do it? What would you advise somebody else who went through the same thing? Like you get learning from those mistakes so that you can then build building blocks to take some, like, I saw this post the other day, said it showed one person with failure on top of their head, like all these blocks of failure on top of their neck, like weighing them down. And the other person successful was like, they're using the failures as stepping stones to this next place. And I want that for this work. And I think that when we can give young people a space to say, man, I don't have to always have all the answers. The way the TV and the way the news and the way the media and the way the stories say that, hey, don't show no feelings, suck it up, man up, be tough, be strong, have all the answers, be handsome and be beautiful and be muscular and be tough and have a lot of money all the time. Mm-hmm. Like, what? How do you keep up with that?
Yep.
Like, and you all can always feel like you're not enough. And so our work was always finding a way so that young people, definitely for our young men, that they had a space to not have to worry about trying to keep it all together. And so I think that when they got a space to recognize that, wait a minute, somebody else in here is going through something. And it's really deeply connected to what we were doing around the mask. I think the mask didn't exist back then when I first started Ever Forward, but what it was, the mask was happening. It was a space where I could talk about what I was going through. Somebody else in the room was like, wait a minute, you got new shoes and you got nice clothes. How are you going through that kind of stuff? Because on the outside, it looks good. On the outside, I'm amazing. On the inside, there's so much stuff going on. And I think I've been really thinking about this idea of superheroes in the same way, right? When superheroes are on mask on, they are impenetrable. They may get roughed up a little bit, but they coming back. You know what's gonna happen at the end of the show. They coming back, right? But when they're in their human body self and they're just like being themselves, you're like, how is he so special? And so what happens is then the hero's journey of helping young people and helping all people, but definitely with the specifically focusing on our young men, you are amazing. And whatever you're going through is what you're going through. If it hasn't taken you out, you're still supposed to be here. You got more to do. Don't get stuck in it. And that's the work that we get to do in Ever Forward, and really helping them to build this idea of that I am without a doubt enough. And I think that I'm good at telling people that because I didn't always believe it. I didn't always believe it. I didn't often hear it. I believed that my mom loved me and cared about me, but she didn't talk about it. So when I talk about these masks, I know that I had to show up in a mask. And I'm talking about, like, when we talk about masks, imagine this. 4 or 5 years ago, when we were talking about masks, nobody was making it political. They may not have got what we're talking about, but they weren't like saying, what do you mean you're telling people to take off their mask? Because they think we're talking about these masks. This is one of my newest masks. I love this mask.
I like that mask.
It's a mask, you know? But we're not talking about these masks, because I think people should wear these for their own protection and safety and well-being, depending on where they are. But I'm talking about the masks of emotional disconnection, the one that I'm wearing right now, the one that I'm trying to make sure that I tell you some good stuff, but knowing that this morning I was yelling at some guy on the freeway because he was on his phone and he almost ran into my car. Like, I don't talk about all those things. I don't talk about the times I don't feel like I'm enough. I don't talk about all the times that I feel like I'm working all the time and I feel like I'm not making any progress. I don't talk about that often. I'm learning how to talk more about it, to be really open about it. But the mask that we wear sometimes causes us not to be fully known. And one of my mentors says, can you be fully loved unless you're fully known?
Sure.
Is it possible to be fully loved unless you're fully known?
I think you have to fully love yourself before you can fully be loved by someone else. And by fully loving yourself, you have to accept all aspects of yourself.
Absolutely.
With that, Ashanti, I hate to cut this short because I could talk to you for a million hours more, but we're on a strict deadline here. What's the URL that people can go to sign up for your Million Masks movement?
The website is 100kmasks.com, 100kmasks.com. The activity is simple, but it may not be easy. It's one picture, 6 words. What's on the front of the mask, the things we let people see, what's on the back of the mask, the things we don't let people see, and you will see masks from all over the world. And we invite you to be a part of the movement with us and tell somebody about it. 100kmasks.com. And we look forward to you being a part of the Million Mask movement. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ashanti. You are just an angel on earth, and we really appreciate all that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.